I honestly don't feel like I'm doing anything right. But I'm trying. I'm trying. On my second day of residency, I remember coming home so frustrated and overwhelmed, thinking that I was doing nothing right. Even with a decent amount of surgery background, it felt like I was a fish out of water, and every step that I was taking was somehow, in some way, a detriment to the team or making more work for somebody else. I ended up having a long phone call with one of my co-interns who spent 3 years in a surgical residency before joining our class in anesthesia. I wanted to talk to him because I don't think anybody really understands getting thrown into a surgical residency as a day one intern besides somebody that, well, did. He was one of few people that could probably understand what I was going through, all the emotions, all the imposter syndrome. And it felt kind of like that meme of one of the Franco brothers, like with the noose over his neck, looking over to the other person where it's like first time. Because for him, he was hearing all my stories, knowing exactly what I'm going through, as he's also transitioning to intern year all over again. Throughout that phone call, we spoke of some non-negotiables for intern year. Standards to be set for the first rotation to be kept throughout the rest of residency, really. After the phone call, I quickly wrote down as much as I could remember from our conversation, put it on the fridge to look at every single morning at 4 a.m. when I woke up. And then I sat right here at this kitchen island and just cried. Something that I think all physicians, especially men, need to be okay with admitting. At that moment, everything was just too much. It was too much. But a lot of those non-negotiables instead turned into lessons that I learned throughout my first rotation of intern year. Those tears turned to laughter, and in hindsight, things probably felt a lot worse than they actually were. But in order for me to get to that point at the end of my first rotation, I think we need to walk through what I wrote down on that sheet of paper as the lessons I learned throughout my first rotation of residency. The first three are the most obvious lessons, which I'm gonna just loop all together. There's an old saying in surgery that's eat when you can, sleep when you can, don't with the pancreas, which is really ironic because I was on surgical oncology for my first rotation, and Whipple procedures for pancreatic cancer was just like an everyday occurrence. But regardless, that does kind of hold true, and even though I am an anesthesia intern, for the month, you're a surgery intern. And I found out eating is a commodity. Like, there are no such things as meal times. Costco was my friend, granola bars are my friend, the Ziploc bag of pistachios are, and of course the childhood favorite. Some days it really is just me and my Uncrustable against the world. Uncrustable, sponsor me. Holding down the floor by myself. Everyone else is in the OR. We're near the off-service intern. It happened. All good. There really were multiple situations where I didn't eat a full meal until like 6:30 or 7 at night, and would be living off like protein shakes and water throughout the day just because things are so busy. Scrubbed into a 9-hour surgery case, like what are you gonna do? But my team at least really had an emphasis on trying to take care of ourselves. Our wonderful PAs on our team kind of made it a small tradition to do team lunches whenever possible. There are food trucks outside of Yale that every chance we got, if everyone was free, we would go out together, try out a new food truck, and it was a way to learn about each other, try out different foods, and just bond as a team, as well as obviously nourish ourselves for the day. So even though it was tough to really eat, it turned into, one, a necessary thing to just keep going, and two, a communal thing to learn about each other, which is honestly a great incentive. 2, sleep. It's a surgery rotation. Sleep is also a commodity. You don't get a lot. Just plain and simple, it sucks. I was waking up at 4 o'clock every single day. We would get there at 5 o'clock in the morning to make the list for the team, get sign out from the night team at 5:30, do our whole day. At 5:30 p.m. we would give sign out to then the night intern, which if it happens to be you, congratulations, you're now on a 24-hour. And at that point, who knows how much sleep you're getting. You're lucky to get 2 or 3. More on the 24-hour shifts in probably the next video, so hold your questions about that. But it really was a non-negotiable, or it started to become one, because as a resident you have to make decisions that require some precision, and as little as like putting in the right orders, but that's not a little thing, that's a very important thing. But if you're sleep deprived, you're gonna make mistakes, and thankfully there's, you know, the Swiss cheese model, there's pharmacists, other people looking at your orders to make sure you're not doing something really stupid, but that's causing more work for other people, so you want to do well the first time. I ended up trying to optimize my sleep as best I could. Blackout curtains. I actually bought a Hatch like sunrise lamp so that it would like gradually wake you up before your alarm, and to me, I actually found that helped. So I was getting really good sleep, but probably only like 5.5 at the most, like 6 hours of it, but you do still need it. On my first 24, I prided myself in not getting any sleep, and then the next ones, I realized just how bad of an idea that was, and you have to try to get at least a little bit of sleep. Third one is do one thing for yourself. And this is one of the major things that changed for me between med school and residency. In medical school, whenever anybody would say like, hey, we're doing this, we're going out, whatever, like I was pretty much a homebody, or at least like more often than not was. And I'd either be like, oh, I'm tired, or hey, you know, I don't really feel like going, or say yes and then like flake at the end. And I completely admit fault for that. But in residency, and especially when the people that you're interacting with and like communally suffering with, also residents who understand what you're going through and understand that transition, it is a non-negotiable.
No. Ooh. All right, gentlemen, pop on in here. How's week 1 of residency treated y'all?
Week 2?
Week 2. That should tell you everything. It's going well.
It's been long.
It's going well.
We're alive.
These social things are what keep us going.
Take your breaks when you get them.
This is like our This is our one day off. I've done neither, so, but I'm out here. Vitamin D is
My schedule is basically backwards. I've been on nights for the past like.
You're just a nocturnal.
I have no idea how you're here right now.
I woke up, I went to sleep at like 1 yesterday, woke up today, and I felt like I took a nap. It's such a weird feeling. It doesn't feel like I went to sleep. And Sneha's eating breakfast for dinner, basically, because you're backwards too, kind of.
I have to flip it up. Yeah.
And then I just don't eat.
Yeah, he just doesn't eat.
You guys eat?
You guys eat? You sleep? You eat?
All right, check back in.
We're still alive. We're still thriving.
Still alive. Still hanging in there.
One step closer to being
2 weeks down.
2 weeks down.
Yeah, 2 weeks down. That's right. Time. That's a thing.
I find it necessary to say yes to dinners, even if I'm showing up in scrubs. Even the little things, like during 4th of July, even after work, going to see the fireworks with my co-residents. Just like an hour and a half or an hour or 2 of socialization goes a long way, because you get to reconnect with the people that are going through it all with you. We get to share stories. We realize we're not alone. And a huge thing I did during my first rotation, which is probably really stupid, was I went straight from a 24-hour shift on the train to New York City to spend like 36 hours there to hang out with some friends and meet up with some mentors, one of which being Max.
Look who I found in New York. Any tips for me to get through intern year? You've been there, done that.
So things that we've talked about, when you're calling a console, either be the person who apologizes right up front, or decide that you are not going to be offering an apology for the consult that you're calling. And as far as intern year goes, it ends eventually. Good there.
It's been rough. It's rough.
Was I physically punishing myself with that trip? Probably. Did I necessarily have to do it? No. But when I made that decision to go on that trip, I was so stressed out that I just needed a physical and mental and emotional separation from the city of my residency. And I'm so glad I did, because I don't think I would have gotten through my last week or so of my rotation without that trip. It refreshed me, It gave me more perspective on what I was doing because I saw people outside of medicine too. And those are things that I probably wouldn't have done in the past that I started realizing is necessary for me to do now. Because if you just take the easy route and you sit in your apartment and you just like internalize all the stress and the anxiety and the emotions of the rotation, it's going to implode on itself. It's going to destroy you, and you're just not going to make it through residency if you do that. So yes, is socializing after a long day of work somewhat out of my comfort zone? Absolutely. But I'm so glad I have taken those steps to leave my comfort zone, because it is absolutely paid off dividends in my mental health throughout this first rotation. And now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty, but I'm gonna try to keep it as brief as I can. 4, you are not a categorical surgery intern. My first week or so in the workroom, I was the only anesthesia intern. I had another intern on my service, Ryan, who I cannot speak highly of enough as the categorical surgery intern. And me and Ryan were tasked with taking care of all the floor patients for the surgical oncology service. And sure, both of us are still learning kind of the ins and outs of Epic, you know, how do we write our notes and like the technical stuff of being an intern. But when we would present and give plans and everything, or like look at the cases that were going on today, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little lost. Meanwhile, my first week, my categorical surgery co-intern was blitzing through everything. He was able to predict the post-op complications because he knew these procedures like the back of his hand. He knew all the tumor markers I was seeing. And for me, I was just sitting there like, am I supposed to know this? And for honestly the first week and a half to 2 weeks, I told myself, you do have to know this. And that destroyed me from the inside out. Every day was another frustration and a feeling of incompetency, because no matter how much I tried to read up, I'm not a categorical surgery intern. I did not go into residency for general surgery or surgical oncology. And I came home every day wondering, why in the world are you so dumb? Why don't you know this? Read up, continue to read up. And I tried and I tried and I tried, but like every little minute detail that I would miss in my plan, or every time somebody would suggest a complication of the procedure that I literally had not heard of, it destroyed me. And honestly, it wasn't until like later on in the rotation when I just had to come to terms with, you are the off-service intern. You are expected to try, but at the end of the day, you didn't go to residency for this. And in my head, I saw it as inadequacies, but by the end of it, I noticed the team, and especially my co-intern, saw it more as a willingness to learn, a willingness to try, an ability to care enough to want to know the complications so that you can take better care of the patients. But I wish that I could get it through my thick skull that like, hey, you're still the anesthesia intern on a very complex surgical service. I wish I got that through my head sooner. Probably would have saved me a lot of gray hairs on my head. But thankfully, I had my surgery co-intern there who is an absolute baller, who's gonna be the most incredible thoracic surgeon who, man, I can't wait to see your name on a paper that's curing lung cancer or something. But even as much as I thought all my surgery co-interns and co-residents were doing great, over time you realize that no one has a single clue what they are doing. And not really from a medical standpoint, it's a lot of like the practical, how do I like fill out this discharge? What paperwork do I need to fill out and everything? But like there are so many times me internally sitting at my workstation, cranking through stuff, going like, oh my God, am I doing any of this right? Like, I don't know. And I think I am. The PAs are helping me and making sure like I'm not putting in anything like ridiculously wrong. But in my head, I saw my surgery co-residents and we're going like, oh, they got it all. Like they know exactly what they're doing. And then the amount of times like the seniors and the PAs would step out of the room and it'd just be the interns, and all of us would look at each other and be like, guys, I feel like I'm screwing everything up. It was like this like weird breath of relief where we're just like, okay, it's not just me, it's you guys too. Like we're all just new at this. We're all new doctors, and like that pain, that growing pain is universal. And you know, some people have a better poker face about it than others. I certainly didn't. But to see like people who I thought were superstars still like question their decisions in like an ability to care, but still like in a, I feel like I should know how to do this way. It was comforting. Comforting in a weird way that bonded us all, I think, forever and ever. The surgery co-residents I worked with, seriously, like, I hang out with them outside of the hospital, get coffee with them through this period, especially me and Ryan. It was like that LeBron and Dwayne Wade meme for the entire rotation of us just back and forth alley-ooping to each other, and that was kind of how we worked. And you know, it was comforting to know that you're not going through it alone and that we're all just figuring it out together. And you know, one day I'm gonna see them across the drapes when we're staffing cases together, and it's gonna be a great time and just all smiles. But a lot of that frustration that it feels like you're not doing everything right comes from a point of care. And that's something that like some of the PAs really had to sit me down because they saw I was going through a rough time. Basically tell me like, you're doing okay. And I would answer them back and I'm like, but I'm not doing this discharge right. I want to do more work to take work off your shoulders, and I want to get this done quicker because this patient needs to go home. And like what I want to do and the skill set, just like paperwork wise, of getting to that point has not been developed yet. And again, that ate at me every single day because I felt like I wanted to get it done, but I couldn't. And in my head, it was an inadequacy. In my head, it was an incompetency. But by the end of it, I think we all had to learn is you're frustrated because you care. You're frustrated because you want to help. There should be a lot more alarm bells going off if you aren't frustrated. If you're so passive and content with doing poor work, that's when you need to be concerned. But that frustration, although I'm still learning how to manage that, is a sign that I'm in the right field, that I'm in the right place, because I want to do better, which leads to the next point. And this is a tip that my co-residents gave to me, and then when they were frustrated and down in the dumps, I gave right back. And that caring is enough. We're 3-week deep interns. You're not gonna know how to do everything, but everything in our path of pre-med to med school, this like grind tells us that your best should be perfect, and if it is not perfect, therefore it is inadequate. But once you get to the position of a resident physician, especially in the early months, caring really is enough. There are so many times where there's so many times that I would come in earlier, try to make a better list, and I would try, and then afterwards, like, I would get feedback going like, hey, you forgot this, or you forgot this, and it's just like this constant frustration that Ryan actually voiced to me too, that like you show up and you do your best, and your best still feels like it's never enough. And that is the most common feeling of this past month. You show up, you do your best, and it still feels like not enough. And that's how we all internalize it. But at the end of the day, like all our seniors, uppers, the attendings, really, we want you to care. And that care is enough. That drive to be better, the drive to learn, the drive to not make the mistakes a second time is enough. Brutal lesson that is easy to say, but not easy to live. But we did live through it. And I'm better off for it. And I'm sure you're sensing a theme here. Last thing I wrote down was your first time won't be perfect, so stop expecting it to be, because no one else is. And I think that no one else is, in parentheses, is probably the most important part of that. I remember when I was playing club soccer back in high school, and I had this bad habit of taking myself out of the game when things were going wrong. I would start in center midfield, we'd be going through, I'd have a couple bad touches, a couple bad passes that compound to each other. And then I would look to my coach and be like, hey, can I get a sub out? And I just like angrily stomp off the field, sit on the bench and try to cool myself off. Because in my head, my mistakes and my imperfection was affecting my team. Therefore, if it's better for me to like be not on the field, I will take myself off the field. And personally, I know for a fact that is something that has permeated me since high school, and it's something that I still work every single day on combating. And I know so because I was combating that throughout this entire rotation. Like me not putting in a discharge summary right or doing the med rec right felt like those missed passes, those errant touches. And every single day I wanted to just take myself off the team. Hey, coach, sub me out because I think this team can run better without me there. But guess what? You're a doctor now. There is no subbing out. It's you, man. You're the starter. You're playing the 90 minutes. You make a couple bad passes, whatever. You got your back line helping you out. Get your head back in the game. Make some better passes. Let's get an attack going on goal. And I know I keep mentioning them, but really the PAs have been the most wonderful help and just the most angel characters I could have asked for throughout my first rotation. A lot of the things on this list, they talked me through and they guided me through, and I couldn't be any more thankful, seriously. Andrea, Ari, Dina, Judy, Casey. I don't know why any of you guys would be watching this video, but seriously, thank you. Thank you for helping all of us baby doctors, and like your patience and encouragement means the world to all of us. But there is one more thing that I decided to write down at the end of the rotation. I had a variation of a saying. Ryan had a variation of the saying. Ryan's was, you can't stop the clock. Mine was, the day has to end eventually. I think to combine the two, I wrote down, this too shall pass. Because even though the days were very, very long, the weeks were short. Even your worst moments, your most embarrassing moments.
I did the intern thing. Oh my God, it's been such a long day. I accidentally took the 4-pager home. Ah! I swear I have 2 brain cells and neither of them work. I cannot believe I'm here. I cannot believe I'm back here for this. I just need to capture this moment. I'm sorry, man.
Go enjoy.
Do still pass. You make it out on the other side. And by the end of it, you look back and you're like, that was probably the most transformative month of my life that I've ever had. And I left with some lifelong friends along the way. So even in the highs and the lows, that too is gonna pass. You go on to your next rotation, you progress through your years. I'll finally be on my side of the drapes. My surgery colleagues are gonna be on theirs, and we're gonna have a laugh about this one day. All right, JP, be completely honest. How'd I do?
You did great for your first rotation.
That was the most half-hearted comment ever. Just tell me how you really feel.
I honestly feel you did great. It's difficult. I did the same thing last year when I was an intern, so I think you're gonna do great next rotation. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Can't wait to see you on the other side of the drapes.
We'll see you on the other side.
Air high five.
Air high five.
When I see Ryan, Joe, JP, Andres, all of you guys that if you're watching this, you're all incredible and are gonna be amazing surgeons. When I see you guys, not if I see you guys across the drapes, 1, I'll probably dap you up in pre-op because it'll be good seeing you again. But 2, we're gonna look back at all this and be like, you remember when you were a scared little intern? Now look at you. There's a lot more to come from this list, and the list is probably going to expand throughout the next year. I actually come back to surgical oncology in February for my 2nd month of surgery, so team, I'll see you again. But yeah, I know this video is long, but I think it was important for me to just like digest this first rotation, because I know there's a lot of people out there that probably felt the same way and went through a lot of the same emotions and are also on the other side of it too. Can't stop the clock. The days have to end eventually, and this too shall pass. Stay tuned for the next video when I explain the 24-hour shifts I was on during my surgery rotation. And to all my co-interns, family and friends, thank you for putting up with me during my first month of residency where things were a little tiring, but a lot of growing. First of many. Here we go. Catch you guys in the next one. Oh, I need to sleep.